Welcome to the We Are One podcast. Today we have Chris Anatra, the quantum businessman. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Christopher Anatra. I'm the president and founder of a software technology company named NECS Incorporated. If you watched my previous video about quantum physics and the Mandella Affect, you already knew that. You might even think of me as the quantum businessman.
Welcome to Open Your Reality, everybody. My name is Chad, and today we have a very special guest. It is Chris Anatra, who is CEO and president of NECS Incorporated, and also knows a lot about the Mandella Effect and many other things that we're going to be talking about today. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Chad. It is so good to be here. It's awesome to be on your show. I really appreciate it.
Do you want to start off, Chris, and tell us about yourself and how you got into this?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. So my name's Christopher. My script name is Christopher Anatra. You know me as the quantum businessman. And yeah, I've been on this awakening journey since about the end of 2016 until now. It's continuing to continue. I don't know when it will end for any of us. I'm sure it's going to keep on going and going. But beginning to understand what this reality really is. So I had experiences that had to do with my business regarding Mandella effects. I had a big personal one that really shook me hard in 2016. And then after that, I began to see things that I was not able to see before, including visions, like high definition movie clips that would like play in my head of different scenes. They'd last about 10 seconds. I couldn't hear anything, but I could see what was going on and trying to make sense of what all of this stuff meant, because at the beginning, it really shook me up big time. So I'll just give you an example. So the first thing that got me was, it was the end of 2016. It was around the month of November, and it was around the time of the JFK assassination. And there was talk about how there was going to be information being released to the public that was, kept in secret from the Warren Commission for many, many years, that was going to start to be released. So I had some friends over, we were in my kitchen, and I started to play the JFK assassination. And that's one of those things I'd watched over and over and over. You knew frame like 270 is when this happened, and frame 278 is when the first bullet struck, and blah, blah, blah. I watched it on the computer, and it was a different JFK assassination, like different car. There's more people in the car. And I was like, what is this? This is like a movie, like college kids made a reenactment of the JFK assassination, but got all the details wrong. So I was trying to make sense of that. And I was like, so I started Googling, I was looking at other clips of the JFK assassination, of the Zapruder film, and they're all the same. I was like, it started to hurt my head. I didn't understand what was going on. And then I came across this entry in Google that said JFK assassination Mandella Effect. And I was like, what the heck is that? What is a Mandella Effect? I had absolutely no idea what that was. So then I began to read other people's accounts that they remember things exactly the way I did, where it was a 2-seater car. There was only 4 people in the car. The governor of Texas and his wife weren't in there. Obviously, the governor of Texas didn't get shot like JFK got shot. He was, I think, shot in, I don't even know, the arm or the leg or something like that. All these details started to really confuse me. And then that started to affect my business, because I was getting just strange things from customers. They were saying, like, the reports of our software, because our software is specifically designed to be created for food distribution. They would say that the reports that our system was generating was not matching basically what they thought it should be, or what they remembered it to be. So we spent a lot of time looking into that. And then they were saying, like, and then your software's got bugs. It changed all my Haas avocados to Haas avocados. And what happened to my Stouffer stovetop stuffing? Now it's Kraft. And they were just like, instance over, all these different things are adding up for me to begin to question reality. So it took me from that mode of being totally I'll call myself a sleeping player character, to begin to like be fast tracked to understand what the reality is. And then shortly after that, I had a situation where I was in my bedroom and I saw these two feline cat people in my bedroom. And I'm like, what is this? One was like in a blue military, the male one was in a blue military uniform, and he had medals and so forth. And then next to him was, I believe to be his wife, and she was wearing a blue dress and she had a ruby on her forehead. And I'm like, did someone just install a holographic projector in my bedroom? Like, what's going on? Because again, wasn't under the influence of anything, and just there it was. And then probably after about maybe 90 seconds, it just kind of dissipated. It went whoosh, and it just disappeared. And I was like, what is that? And then I had the process where I started to see things in my head. I'd close my eyes, see these amazing 10-second movie clips of things I couldn't even imagine. So boom, 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 boom. All these things started happening to make me question reality, to make me question, what was really going on. And that led to a world of discovery. And those are the type of things that I share on my channel on the quantum.
How often does that happen to you?
Which part of it?
The hallucination stuff, the visions, all those things that you see and hear.
Yeah, the vision stuff, it got to a point, it was happening like every evening. And it got to a point where I didn't even want to watch Netflix. I'm like, I just want to see what visions are going to play in my head, because that's far more interesting. And then, so I'm asking people what this could possibly be. At one point I went to a psychiatrist, and she was a little bit confused because she thought I was going to say I was hearing things. And I would tell her I would only see things. I think she was hoping I'd had schizophrenia or something. So she couldn't really diagnose me. But I would talk to people about it. And then one person said, oh, it looks like you're getting access to your Akashic records. And I was like, what's Akashic records? Like I never heard that term before in my life. And then that led me into I took some courses into what the Akashic records were, read some books, had sessions with people that were really good at reading the Akashic records. And that took me to a whole other world of understanding related to past lives. And that this life that we're in right now, this consciousness and this avatar that we're in right now, is not the first one that we've had. And they're all happening literally at the same time. So, yes.
So what do you attribute that to? What do you think happened to you? Have you see and hear these things?
For me, like my whole life, I was sleeping, and then it's almost like when your alarm clock rings, are you going to hit the snooze button, or are you going to wake up? And I felt that, my higher self, or however you want to use that terminology, was like, dude, it's time for you to wake up. You've been sleeping way too long. And so I feel like the alarm clock went off, and we all have these dates, so to speak, when we begin to go through like an awakening process. Some of us, it starts really early in life. Other people like myself, it started later in life. But when your wake up date hits, it's time to wake up.
I have a question. Those feline people, you said you only saw, but you didn't hear. Did they never said anything to you?
No, they were just standing there.
Have you seen them since?
I have not seen the feline since. No. No,
any other deities or dimensional beings that you've seen since then?
Just usually vision type things in my head that I'll see. Yeah.
Have any of the visions that you have they been prophetic? Have you ever envisioned something and actually saw it happen in one of the realities you're in?
Some of the visions I felt like were prophetic, because I get visions of people that I had never met before, but I feel like I was going to meet them. I haven't necessarily met them yet, but some I felt were that way. But most of them were either from the past on this planet. There was quite a bit of it that was off planet as well. So really, really incredible stuff. So I talked about felines, right? I had other visions of the canine races and how they would interact. And Yeah, so there were all these different types of, like, you call them ET species, however you want to like classify them. Some people call them your star family. But yes, so a lot of the visions I saw, I believe, were past lives on Earth, future lives on Earth, and also lives from other stars.
So do you believe that those feline and canine, do you think that they're just interdimensional, or do you think that they actually really exist out there?
Yeah, I believe there's different densities, so forth, and frequencies where they.
Or do you think that they can interact with us physically?
To some extent, I think they're limited because I feel that it's more difficult for them to come down into the 3D. But I feel a lot of those realities are much more real than this reality. So right now, this is like, oh, this is everything here is real. But I feel that the other realities are even more real than this one.
More physical, you mean?
Not necessarily physical. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of us we all have different multiple reasons. One of the reasons I call it beer, pizza, and sex. Because
Did someone say pizza?
yeah, there you go.
Does Chad bring you Chad's going to bring that to you?
By the way, guys, I know like in about 4 or 5 minutes I'll have to skip out. So if you in the audience see me disappear, yeah, I have to go to work.
You're going to enlighteningly disappear?
I'll just slowly dissipate here.
Chad, this one's for you, Chad. This is Chad Paramahansa Yogananda. That is their new name.
I like it.
All right. So Mandela Affect. How do you? I mean, first of all, those visions and those things that you saw. Is it like a deja vu experience where you see stuff and feel stuff? I mean, do you feel tapped into it, or is it like a flushing kind of feel?
You didn't want to continue the beer, pizza, and sex.
Depending on what, I mean, is this like F, Marry, Kill? I think I'll take the sex part.
No,
maybe.
It's not, but it's like that's one of the advantages of being in this density, is that we can actually, those senses that we have, like the sense of taste, all the different senses that we have, they're not the same in higher densities. So coming down here is a very unique and special experience. And time operates differently. When you come down into this particular realm, we have, linear time that's working at like 1 or 60 frames per second. In other densities outside Earth, they call it no time. Time doesn't exist like this. And so at first, a lot of beings are actually scared. They don't want to come down into this density because they're not sure what to expect and how it's going to work. And the timing is that we could have a whole lifetime here. Outside, it could only be like 3 hours. So there are all these different types of ways of looking at what's going on. But we're having a very special physical experience by being in this density.
So is that what you think is going on? Basically, the timeline, you think we can live that many years here?
Well, that's an interesting question. So to kind of divert from that a little bit, to answer it in a different way, I believe that this is what's called like a mentalism type thing, placebo effect. So if you talk about the aging process, we're trained to know what a 20-year-old should look like, or what a 40-year-old should look like, or what an 80-year-old should look like. I believe that in our biology, we should be able to live to like 1,000 years old.
Yeah, I believe
like talk about in the Bible, like, those, the men of old living to 800 years plus. But because we are trained that this is what we're supposed to be at a certain age, we actually manifest that. So number one, we should be living a lot longer. And, why are we, how come that's been taken from us, so to speak? And that goes into all different subjects as well. But yeah, so outside of this reality, we're immortal. Like, we don't realize we're immortal beings. So our body, our avatar could die here, but, on the other side, it doesn't work that way. It's almost like strapping on your VR headset and playing a game. Like, you can get totally immersed in the game and forget that, but part of you knows that game is not you. And even though your avatar or gaming character could die in the game, you take off your VR headset and, you haven't died. You're just having that experience.
Chad, I know you got to go in a few. I want to play this really quick. It's a minute and a half.
Sure.
And I want to get your take, and we'll get into that, guys, as this finishes. But I really wanted to hear what you have to say about this.
Okay.
Reality. In the simplest terms, objective reality is the way things are, without any person's thoughts or feelings affecting it. It is the truth, whether people know it or believe it. Then there is subjective reality, and that is how people see things based on their own thoughts and feelings. You got it? So when we speak of objective reality, we all agree that this is the truth. This is how something is. But what if it isn't? Nobel Prize winning physicist Eugene Wigner had a thought experiment where he imagined a friend measuring something in a lab, and he himself being outside the lab and not knowing what the outcome was. This thought experiment raises questions about how we see reality, and whether or not there is one reality or different realities depending on who is observing it. It also questions the role of consciousness in shaping our understanding of the physical world. All of that to explain that this was just a thought experiment and nothing more. Until 2018, when humanity finally had the capability to actually try out this experiment. And guess what? Wigner was right. His hypothesis suggested that there is no objective reality. And as usual, this sounds pretty out there. But this concept has been suspected for a long time by physicists, that quantum mechanics allow two observers to experience different, conflicting realities, and this modern experiment proved it. It was conducted for the first time at the Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. The experiment resulted in creating different realities to different observers, then comparing them. The conclusion was that Wigner was correct. Get this, these realities can be made irreconcilable, so that it is impossible to agree on objective facts about an experiment. These results suggest that objective reality does not exist.
All right, Chad. Objective reality, what are your thoughts?
I've long suspected that could be the case, which is why some people see a Mandela effect one way, some people see it the other way, why some people see flat Earth, why some people see a globe Earth. I think I still side with there is one overriding reality, because if there wasn't, everything would be chaotic. So we can all agree that maybe the Statue of Liberty looks a certain way, or, that we have to fly to a certain place to access, JFK in New York, or, there's landmarks that just look the same way to everybody, or everybody experiences maybe an orange, maybe not the same exact way, but mostly the same way. But I do think what the observer effect that you said is true, because the consciousness is constantly decoding, it's rendering the reality, and the consciousness affects how that reality is rendered. So I think there are small fluctuations in the way the reality is decoded for each person, but overall, it's mostly the same.
So here's the interesting thing to contemplate, and I want everybody's thoughts on this, obviously. The observer effect and how reality is rendered. Is it rendered in the present? And can it be retroactively rendered for the past?
Yeah, well, according to, if you read the book The Field, which was a really, really good book. I can't think of the author's name right now. It's a woman, Lynn McTaggart. She gives examples in the book, scientific proof that reality can be changed retrospectively. I asked Tom Campbell about that. He said he doesn't believe so. He says once the past is done, it's done. You can't change it. So for me, the jury is still out. I think maybe we can. Obviously, with the Mandela effect, it seems like
exactly. Yep. There you go.
Yeah. But guys, I have to leave. I have to take leave of you now. But it was great seeing you, Chris, MJ. You guys made a great show, and I'll catch up later.
All right,
Take
cool.
care.
All right, have a good one.
Be safe, man.
Thanks, Chad.
I thought it was pretty synchronistic in that clip you paid it in the Chris. You were talking about pizza. He's going to deliver pizza, and there was a pizza sign in the back of that clip too. So,
yeah, you know what?
Pizzagate.
Remember in that clip too, there was like a female police officer that was like waving. The truck that went by, I think, was one of my customers. That's supposed to be. I saw part of the phone number, and I'm like, I think that's one of my clients.
that's pretty cool.
Oh man. So, what are your thoughts on that, Chris? Objective reality and the rendering retroactively causing the Mandela effect potentially?
Yeah, I definitely feel that there's potential with that because, there's the concept, once something happens, is it written in the sands of time, or can it, somehow be edited or somehow changed. Because I've come across examples where I believe something had happened a certain way. I was taught it, and then we'll call it a Mandela effect showed that it was actually different for a specific individual. So I believe that these types of things can change, and it becomes, well, you've got objective reality, which is what the agreed upon reality, and subjective reality is your version of reality.
Correct.
And then that goes to like another concept that I talk about called bubbles of reality. So we're each on kind of our own bubble of subjective reality. And as these bubbles, as we all merge, as our player characters, they're let's say that we're dreaming, and we begin to merge these bubbles of reality, where because we're co-creating this reality together. Can that type of influence also go back and change what the objective reality is? So it becomes a deep subject, but it's definitely one of those things that needs to be discussed and understood, and how quantum physics is actually bringing this to light, and which is great.
Yep. Yeah, I agree 100%. I think the retrocausality part actually is kind of helping to prove the simulation aspect of it too. I mean, if everything was in the present, everything was in the now, you wouldn't be able to retrocausality change anything. These Mandela effects wouldn't even exist, in my opinion.
Exactly. And, with the retrocausality, is it possible to go to a casino and figure out, on the roulette table what it's going to be based upon, if you can tap into that retrocausality. So, I mean, that's an extreme example, but yeah, that's another topic that's super fascinating. And there seems to be evidence that that's actually true.
And could it also be proof or evidence of, like you mentioned before, let's just say dimensional shifting, if you will, to where our consciousness now has shifted into a dimension where frame 270 of the JFK looked different than what it looks now. So we still remember it in the previous dimension, but this current dimension now, which is a shared reality, if you will, has a different set of rules, just slightly varying.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm always finding too that when these type of events happen, like with the JFK assassination is a great example, it seems like more data comes in, because back in my old timeline, there was only the Zapruder film. That's all there was. Now there's the Orville Nix film, and Orville Nix filmed the assassination from the other side that Zapruder was on, where you could kind of see the grassy knoll. And then there is the Marie Muchmore film, and she also filmed the JFK assassination, when the bullets were hitting. And then there's a woman that took a Polaroid at the exact time that the first bullet hit. So all of this, like, it's just an example, like the more we raise we raise our frequency up, we go into these higher timeline bandwidth frequency realities, and there's just more data that's there. The data just wasn't there before. So that's also giving us clues as to what's going on.
Can you talk a little bit about some timeline theory that you have? I know you talk about timelines a lot. Can you elaborate a little bit on what timeline theory, how that intermingles with your bubbles?
Yeah. So there's one part where I talk about there's a chess game going on, so to speak. There's, let's say, one group that's trying to change the outcome to suit their needs, and another player or group that's trying to change the outcome of what reality is for what they feel is to the benefit of humankind and for Earth. So you've got the whole concept of a chess move, all these chess moves happening. And then on top of that, I talk about the concept of timeline insertions, so that there could have been events from other timelines that are not in the historical record from what people remember and what they were taught. And these timelines are inserted or edited in to the objective reality. So they've always existed, so to speak. So, and there's lots of examples of those as well. And then there's the concept of time travel. And is it possible that time travel is causing these timeline changes, which in turn causes Mandella effects. So it's like almost like editing a movie or editing, a video production. Is it possible that if this is a holographic type reality and time travel is possible, and there are ways to insert things into the reality using timeline editing techniques, that goes to further explain what might be happening.
Yep. So let's talk about that a little bit, because that's very interesting. So you are the quantum businessman. You own your own business. I'm an entrepreneur as well. I don't really do it full time anymore. But so playing with the theory that everything is simulated, but you can manipulate it maybe through time and through dimensional space, or I guess maybe even NPCs or whatever. How do you interpret that? How do you extrapolate that into something that you can benefit from it?
Yes, that's a good question, because that's one of the things that I'm working on now. So the whole concept is abundance. So I believe that our birthright is to be abundant. We were never supposed to be in lack in any way. So whether you take business, being an entrepreneur, or whatever your passion is for life, that's something that you should never be in lack for that. Or someone else should never control you because of what you're trying to do. So one of the things that I'm working on is being able to show people how they can understand other levels of reality to help bring in the abundance. The first thing is by increasing raising your frequency. That's probably the most important thing of all, is techniques to raise your frequency. Because as your frequency rises, there are things that connote like etheric chords and whatever, voodoo, black magic, all that stuff to a certain degree is real. But when you're at the lower frequencies, when you start to achieve higher frequencies, things like that can attach to you. And then when it comes to business, for example, there's ways you can I'll call it business health. So you've got two main aspects of business health. You have if you're running a business, you have the health of that business as far as internally. So all your employees, the projects you're working on, how everyone is responding within your business, weeding out the I'll call them the negative NPCs that shouldn't necessarily be there, that are bringing you down. So if there's a way that you can increase your frequency, do things to help the internal health of your business, the other part of that is the external health of your business. Are there things that you can do externally? Because there'll be forces trying to still bring down your abundance. That could be things related to competitors. It could be related to anything that's outside your business, so that people they're not finding you the way they should find you, or they're buying your competitors' products instead of your products, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So going to those other levels, and then understanding there's a whole unseen world out there. Like there's a whole astral world out there. Is it possible to enlist the help of the astral world to help your business?
Help with the universe. Yep.
Yeah, the universe, angels,
whatever you want to call it. Yep.
Whatever you want to call it. Like, can you harness that to help your business? So these are things that I'm starting to like put together, trying to create like a course for that. Just another way of looking about and understanding about how to run a business. And then while I'm doing this right now, I'm also putting into practice everything I'm doing. So, my business has been like a fairly small business. In the world of software, I'm a little French fry in the world of big potatoes. But is it possible to get to another level? And then I have like an idea for another business that's related to food distribution that could really help the planet. So I'm also trying to get that off the ground. It's extremely complicated, but I believe that when you enlist the help of all these different things, and you've got everything, tick, 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 everything is like operating exactly the way it should be, you can do amazing things, regardless of the crazy economic situation that's going to be happening or happening now.
Yeah, there's always opportunity.
There's always opportunity.
Always opportunity. Yeah, you use the term abundance a lot. That's what your main theory is, your outlook on life. I use the term creators. Same thing. I think we're all creators. If we can use the universe or the etheric realm or those spirit guides, whatever you might call it, to help us create. That is the mystical part of manifesting, right? I mean, we all have an idea of how to manifest with intent, through thought, through action. But how do we make that happen? What are your thoughts on manifesting and creating that? How do you call upon those spirit guides or the universe to help you?
Yeah, because that, there's manifesting, law of attraction, and then there's another concept called super manifesting, where if you can get your frequency to another level, like a very high level, you can actually manifest things at a very high rate. So like for me, like at least manifesting and the law of attraction, first of all, it means finding the right people. So sometimes it's easy just to hire someone, you look at their resume and blah, 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 but finding the right people to help you do and complete the projects that you're working on with the creativity that you need, that's like a big thing. Because
and keeping you tapped into your frequency too. If they're going to lower your frequency, obviously you're going to have limitations of what you can manifest.
Yeah, because there's even player characters that are like parasitic vampires. They drain your energy. They're still considered player characters, but they still can drain your energy because they haven't fully awakened, or whatever the situation is.
What are your thoughts on non-player characters? Do they have souls? Are they divine sparks? Are they just in the matrix to get you all riled up? What is your theory on those things?
Yeah, so
people,
all the world's a stage, and the men and women merely actors upon it. And if you had a play, aren't plays kind of boring when there's like 2 or 3 just main people? It's more grand when you have all of the extras in the background. So yeah, NPCs, some people call them the soulless ones. I believe that they have a little tiny trillionth of a soul, so to speak. You can't say they're completely soulless, but a little bit of a soul. But about 30% of the NPCs you could consider positive, and about, as I read it, about 70% would be negative. And I've been trying to figure out, like, what are the ratios? Like, how many NPCs are there to player characters? And a few weeks ago, I went to I was at JFK Terminal 5, and like I asked my higher self, can you scan the terminal? How many player characters there's like thousands of people there. How many player characters are in the terminal? And I was getting number like 11. And I'm like, what, 11? Everyone else is in. So those are the type. I think there's far more NPCs out there than people realize. So yeah.
How are those NPCs created? Because they don't have a divine spark, they don't have an actual soul, or if they're asleep, if they're being programmed by someone else, how are they created? What in your mind is telling you, or in the records is telling you how they got here?
Yeah. So if you consider our holographic reality like a matrix type thing, AI is running a lot of the matrix. So these are NPCs that are created by AI. And once you don't see them anymore, so if there were like 1,000 people in Terminal 5 at JFK a few weeks ago, now, and if there's no player characters at Terminal 5 at this moment, are there really any actual NPCs out there right now? Like, does the system, does the matrix have to create them if there's no one there to observe them?
That's it, observer. Yeah. Yep.
So if I was there with 11 people, I'd be like, what the heck's going on? This is around the holidays. How come there's only 11 people? But when you see like all these, it just adds to the experience that you're having.
Mike, what are your thoughts on what he's saying? I know you don't necessarily agree with the NPC foundation, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I've been thinking about it a little bit, because I guess from the generic NPC standpoint, I work with a lot of NPCs, right? And I've experimented on a few things. I don't think, I wouldn't agree that they don't have a divine spark, or they are not conscious to a level. I think there's levels of consciousness, and maybe there's some people, like you said, that haven't awakened yet, but they still have the potential. We mentioned this before. Earlier in my journey, I probably would have been considered an NPC to you guys, based on my belief systems and thoughts and things of that nature. But one of the things that I've been thinking about more lately is just using the game scenario, like an NPC in an actual game. They're not a playable character. That doesn't mean that they don't have information or could help you on your journey
or function.
Yeah. So I think even though their level of consciousness hasn't been maximized yet, the system can still use those individuals to help on some level. And maybe they haven't got to the point where they reach their timer. But I do feel that because I don't feel looking at children. I don't think you can look at a child and say that child's an NPC. Like you wouldn't be able to differentiate a playable child from a non-playable child. I think the issue comes during their lifetimes and the programming and the amount of programming that they accept and the questioning that they have and how strong that programming is. That's the cage that they build around themselves. And then their actions are going to make you feel like they're an NPC because they're unconscious. But that's kind of my thoughts on it.
You know, that reminds me of that movie Free Guy. I don't know if you guys saw that,
Yeah,
where Guy was considered an NPC. And he woke up. He was able to wake. You know, he was able to wake up. He puts the glasses on, and he's able to see what was going on around him. And yeah, that led to other NPCs waking up. And it really is. I heard somebody once tell me that if the NPCs woke up, it wouldn't be good for the system because there'd be strikes and blah blah blah. But wouldn't that be something if all the NPCs could be woken up? That would be amazing.
I don't know. That would be a good thing either at the same time. But going back to what you said, MJ, I don't think that classifying someone as an NPC or someone's being unconscious, they're not awake, is necessarily the right term. So I agree with you on that aspect. As far as a divine spark, do we all have it? Is there another function that defines an NPC? For me, looking at it through manifesting and through business and through, trying to get what I want accomplished. As Chris said, they have a function. I wouldn't say that a non-player character can't wake up. I would just say that the NPCs, or what I call an NPC, is someone who is not able to break free from their programming, someone who, more importantly, is controlled by whatever system has them. Whether it's the media, whether it's the government, whatever that is. I don't think that they're not rendered if we don't look at them necessarily. But I do think that there are certainly aspects of them that would like run into a wall or walk off a bridge. There are some people like that. So the level of consciousness of an NPC, I think, is going to vary. And I don't think we will ever know all the answers as far as that's concerned, whether they have a God particle, whether they have a soul, whether they have other things going on that they can't break free on. But, NPC to me just means somebody that's not conscious or not able to break free of their mold.
Yeah. And for myself, like a sleeping player character, like I was for most of my life, is about the same as an NPC. So you could have considered me an NPC because I just never questioned anything. Didn't question anything at all. I just thought this is all the reality was. And then when you died, you were dead.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that now? Do you think that there is do you believe in reincarnation?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Definitely now, right?
Yeah.
So what do you think about this soul trap and run from the light kind of theories that are going around now?